Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pushing Up Lilies. I'm your host, Julie. I know that many of you may not have seen me before. I'm going to start doing YouTube videos. This is the first of many. Obviously, I do not have any kind of a background yet. I am trying to decide how I want to set it up. So I want to make it, I don't know, you know, us girls, us bougie girls. We want to make it cute and all the things. And so, anyway, we're going to try to do that. And this is just the beginning. And I just want to say that I'm so grateful for all my followers. I am just about to hit 100,000 downloads, which is amazing. I've recorded over 200 episodes, and I am being asked to guest host on a lot of other true crime podcasts, which I'm so grateful for the friends and true crime family that I met at Beyond the Crime and then also at CrimeCon. And I think I told y'all, I've already actually applied as a creator for CrimeCon 2027, which is in September in Orlando, September 2027. I'm excited about the possibility. I will be exhibitor if I'm not chosen to be on Creators Row again. I don't think there was really a lot of separation as far as who was on Creators Row and who was an exhibitor. However, I know that there was a cost difference. So it doesn't matter to me really. I used to be so focused on being a creator. And you know what? We're all creators and they only chose a certain number of people, and that's fine. I don't know how they decide that. I feel like they say that they're fair about it. I just don't know. I don't know who makes that decision. I don't even know how many creators they had versus exhibitors, but I know that many podcasters who had been in the podcasting world for years still were not chosen. So it really had nothing to do with your experience or your level of expertise or even how long you'd been doing it. Anyway, I applied as a creator. If nothing else, to save a little bit of money, I can tell you that I think I will drive next time because the cost of shipping all my merch there was ridiculous. And it had to be there 2 weeks before the event. And then we had to pay Caesar's Palace to store our stuff. And so the underlying cost of podcasting, I think, is something that a lot of people don't understand. And that's why we work so hard to get sponsors. Now, this year, I am hosting my second annual murder mystery dinner. And it's going to be in Crum, Texas. The date we have chosen is October 10th. It'll start at 5 p.m. and we're going to have like a 1 hour kind of meet and greet, have some drinks, visit, meet each other, and also talk to the actors. And then at 6, it will start. And that is a 3 hour show that will be put on during dinner. It's very interactive, super excited. There are opportunities this year to sponsor the event. I will say that I have reached out to several different organizations to be a part of promoting them. One of them is making the coasters where you can test for GHB and Rohypnol in your drink and to put the Pushing Up Lilies logo on those and then hand them out at local bars for free. And then also, we have 2 major universities in Denton, so giving them to students so that they can check their drink before they take a drink to make sure that it hasn't been tainted. I'd like to help with prevention, and so those things are things that I want to do with the sponsorship and promotion money that we get from the event, as well as to help kind of cover the costs of the podcast. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff up and coming, and so I'm super excited to share it with y'all. I really don't want to mention the names of the organizations until I have something set in stone, but it's going to be exciting. There's going to be a lot. I have a guest speaker lined up that y'all are going to love to hear. Her daughter was murdered, and I'm excited for her to talk to y'all. So get ready for the tickets to go on sale. They'll be on Eventbrite like they were last year. Limited number, though. This venue only holds 88. So I've got to take into account me and then my family and the actors. And so when you do the math, you can see that there's not going to be a lot of tickets. and the VIPs will be sponsors, and so they will get tickets at the front of the room and will be recognized in other ways. So if you own a business, and it doesn't even have to be local, a business anywhere, we would really appreciate your collaboration in this event. So this week, I want to talk a little bit about the Lindsay Clancy case. And I know that a lot of people are familiar with it. It's just such a sad case. It reminded me a lot of the Andrea Yates case. And I think I told y'all that when I was in Houston, my training, my very first training that I went to, included the crime scene photos from Andrea Yates. And I mean, it was really devastating. And it's not unlike what I saw during my entire career. I saw that happen many times, but that time was the first time. And so it's always so devastating. And it's sad. Just walking into a scene like that is hard for a death investigator. And so I just always want to reach out and give a shout out to, the police officers and the death investigators and even the dispatchers who have to take these calls. Their job is so important and so difficult. It takes a special person. So let's talk a little bit anyway about this case. Now, I do want to say that when I saw day one of the court proceedings, I love this judge. I love that he carefully explained the jury's job to the jurors, which is important. And it's not always done. It's not always done right. And I do love that he said that he does not have an opinion. That's how I always was in sexual assault cases and in death cases. You have to go into it being unbiased, completely unbiased. You can't have an opinion because others are watching you and your opinion matters to them. And your opinion is actually going to possibly affect their thoughts. So, anyway, let's talk a little bit about who Lindsay Clancy was and the victims and what happened on the night of January 23rd, 2023. Now, Lindsay was Lindsay Marie Musgrove, born August 11th of 1990, and she was raised in Wallingford, Connecticut. She completed a rigorous accelerated nursing program that was connected to Massachusetts General Hospital, and she worked for about 9 years as a labor and delivery nurse there. Now, colleagues and family described her as very competent, caring, and very dedicated to her patients. And in December of 2016, she married Patrick Clancy, and they actually settled in Duxbury, Massachusetts, and built what both later described as a loving family life. Their first child was Cora. Now, Cora was born in December of 2017, and then Dawson arrived in September of 2019, and then Callan was born on May 26th of 2022. Now, Cora was 5 years old at the time of her death. Her father later told the court and the public that she had an infectious laugh and was just stunningly beautiful. She was the cautious one among the three siblings, and not from fear, but because she was so deeply caring. Now, she often said that she wanted to grow up to be a doctor and a mama, and she practiced by giving her baby brother Callan checkups. She loved her brothers and said so in her sweet voice, and she enjoyed princesses, baby dolls, and wrapping her dolls in swaddles. Preschool teachers remembered her as a wonderful student and a sweet little girl who loved her little brother. She sometimes told people that her name was Sophia, and that was after a television character. And family photographs shown in court depicted her with this bright smile and a large red bow in her hair. Now, on the morning of January 24th, 2023, her father kissed her on the head before he left the house, and that was the last time he saw her alive. Dawson was 3, and his father described him as bold, beautiful, brown eyes that beamed with friendship. He was naturally humorous. He was generous beyond the typical toddler, always willing to share his toys. For all the love he received, he gave back even more. His best quality was pure kindness. So he loved trucks and tractors and the television show Paw Patrol and worker guys, and he liked being outside and firefighters. Now, on the morning of the day he died, his father photographed him celebrating after he had fully dressed himself for the first time. And that afternoon, he sat on the couch eating chicken nuggets when his father left to run errands. Caregivers and the family nanny later described him as full of energy, rambunctious, and funny. Callan was 8 months old, born May 26, 2022, and he turned 8 months old the day before he died. His father called him their easygoing child, always smiling and incredibly happy and very vibrant. In the mornings, Callan usually woke first and would rest his head on his father's shoulder for a few minutes as he got ready to start his day. Now, on the afternoon of January 24th, Patrick rocked him briefly on his knees before he left the house. Now, when first responders reached him, Callan still had a faint pulse, and he was actually flown to Boston Children's Hospital, placed on life support, and died on January 24th after tests showed no brain activity. These three children formed the center of the Clancy household. Patrick later wrote and testified that they were the essence of his life and that each day with them had felt like a new gift. Lindsay, according to family members, a nanny named Elaine Rossi, colleagues, and preschool staff, was a doting, attentive mother who gave detailed written instructions about the children's daily schedules, when she wanted them fed, and what their routines were. But after Callan's birth, the picture changed dramatically. And I know that this happens not frequently, but occasionally. And I will say that, I just did my OB-GYN rotation for NP school. And I will say that we had several moms come in and discuss depression after childbirth. And it wasn't because they didn't have a loving family, and it wasn't because they didn't love their children, but it was just kind of an overwhelming feeling and something that they couldn't overcome. Now, Lindsay experienced a period of heightened energy at first that resembled hypomania. She would exercise extensively. She even ran a 5-mile race only weeks after she delivered. And this was followed by severe anxiety, insomnia, limited roughly to 3 hours of sleep a night, which we all know if you don't sleep, you are going to be completely exhausted. And how important sleep is to your health. Numb, just emotionally numb. She had intrusive thoughts. Now, she had actually experienced some milder postpartum anxiety after the births of Cora and Dawson, and she managed those. She managed those with exercise and meditation and therapy. I mean, she was a nurse. She knew the things to do to help decrease her stress level, and she did those things. Unfortunately, after Callan, the symptoms grew far more intense. So she sought help repeatedly. She visited emergency rooms, she called crisis lines, and at points, she even asked to be hospitalized. In early January 2023, she spent several days as a voluntary inpatient at McLean Hospital. And that's okay. I mean, it's okay not to be okay. And that's something that, we talk about all the time and we say, but not everybody can hold it together all the time. And so getting help is good. It's a good thing. I think the stronger people are the ones who do get help, honestly. But between September 22nd and January 23rd, she received prescriptions, and these involved at least 13 different psychiatric medications. And these were all from different providers. That list included some antidepressants like sertraline, which is Zoloft, other agents, antipsychotics like Seroquel, and all of these just at various times. Dosages and combinations changed frequently. She reported that some of the medications made her feel worse, and sometimes the antipsychotics do. Sometimes they make you feel worse in the beginning, and unfortunately, most of them take a couple weeks to actually kick in. And it's hard to wait. I mean, we all know just from regular medical symptoms that aren't psychiatric that waiting period for those medications to kick in is terrible, and especially when it's a psychiatric issue and it's affecting your daily life. So, clinical records from different encounters documented depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts, but she didn't ever say that she had a specific plan. So some providers who saw her did not diagnose psychosis at that time. Postpartum psychosis is rare, but it is recognized, it's real. It's a psychiatric emergency, and this occurs in about 1 to 2 of every 1,000 births, and it presents with very rapid onset of delusions and hallucinations, and sometimes command hallucinations. And command hallucinations are hallucinations that instruct the person to act, that instruct them to do something. Not always a good thing, but marked mood swings and just complete loss of contact with reality. And so it's frequently linked to an underlying bipolar vulnerability, but if untreated, it definitely carries elevated risk of suicide. And in a minority of cases, people kill their children. It's considered highly treatable, but it has to be recognized promptly. And it usually does require hospitalization. And you have to carefully choose the medications, and you have to monitor those people very closely. Now, ironically, Lindsay and Patrick had later filed separate civil malpractice actions alleging that providers failed to diagnose bipolar disorder with postpartum onset or postpartum psychosis, and that changing the medication regimen actually worsened her condition. On the afternoon of January 24th, 2023, Lindsay actually took Cora to a pediatric appointment for her 5-year checkup. And she interacted normally with the receptionist, the nursing staff, and the doctor. And later that day, she asked Patrick to pick up takeout from a restaurant and to stop at a pharmacy for the children's medication. And so didn't seem too abnormal. The day, it seemed to be going fairly well. She took her to the doctor. No indication of what was going to happen. Now, the errands took Patrick roughly about 45 minutes, and prosecutors would later argue that the request deliberately created that window of opportunity because, she wouldn't have been able to do this if Patrick had been home. And so while Patrick was gone, Lindsay took the 3 children to the basement of the house on Summer Street, and she used exercise resistance bands as ligatures around their neck. Cora was found face down. Dawson was found in his father's basement office, and Callan was nearby. The medical examiner determined that the cause of death for all 3 was ligature strangulation. Now, Cora and Dawson were pronounced dead that evening at a local hospital, and Callan remained on life support until January 27th. Now, after this, Lindsay cut her wrists and neck and jumped from a second-story window. Now, Patrick came home, found the house quiet, went upstairs, and he found blood in the locked bedroom and an open window. And then he found Lindsay injured on the ground outside. He called 911. Now, on the call, he asked where the children were, and Lindsay directed him to the basement. And he found him there with the bands still around their necks, and he attempted to remove the bands and to perform CPR. First responders heard him scream that she had killed the children. Officers actually saw dried blood, and their lips were blue, and Lindsay was transported to the hospital. She had severe spinal injuries, and these left her permanently paralyzed from the waist down. And so while she was still intubated, she communicated by writing on a whiteboard, and she asked whether she needed an attorney. Now, from my perspective as a forensic nurse, the physical evidence obviously forms a very clear sequence. Soft ligatures are going to produce patterned marks on the neck. We know that these were sequential acts, because of the positioning of the body, and the brief unsupervised period created by the errands definitely establishes opportunity. The sharp force injuries to her neck and wrists combined with the fall from height are consistent with a suicide attempt. This is a feature often seen when people experience command hallucinations, and it sounds just so weird, you know? I can't imagine, like, hearing a voice to tell me to carry out something like that and not realizing that it's not real. I don't know. I can't imagine. And those of us who haven't experienced it can't, and thank God, because I don't want to know what it's like. See, investigation is gonna examine whether or not there are any indicators of planning, and so that would be a history on the computer, search history, any notes in the house. Just court documents actually referenced there were some electronic searches to methods of harm, and the defense situates those searches within the psychotic process rather than saying that she was using them to plan, or that it was any form of rational premeditation. So her defense attorneys are saying, yeah, she did this because she was not in her right mind. She did not know what she was doing. She wasn't purposefully trying to plan these murders. Patrick Clancy actually released a public statement within days of the deaths, and he described the pain as excruciating and relentless, as you can only imagine, losing your children. He said it was completely lost without Cora, Dawson, and Callan, and he asked the public, though, to forgive Lindsay as he had, and he said that the real her, was generously loving and caring towards everyone, including him, the children, family, friends, and her patients, and that the very fibers of her soul were actually loving. He wished only that she could find peace. And he later remarried a reproductive endocrinologist, and he moved to New York. And so there was a lot of public speculation about whether, once the trial began, I'll say, there was a lot of public speculation that was circulated online. And when the details of his remarriage became known, a lot of people claimed that he was having an affair with the woman that he later married, and that he somehow planned or participated in the killings, and that he framed Lindsay and pushed her out the window, or that small details like changing his shoes or a jacket between the pharmacy and the restaurant, indicated some form of suspicious activity. A lot of people have suggested that he left the house intending never to return, or that he somehow benefited from this tragedy. And these theories have and will appear repeatedly in social media posts. They're going to be in the comment sections. They're going to be in a lot of true crime discussion spaces. But there is no official investigation, charging document, court filing, or piece of trial evidence that has supported any claim that Patrick Clancy was involved in the deaths of the children, or that he assisted in any cover up, or that he caused Lindsay's injuries. Surveillance video, phone records, the 911 call, first responder accounts, and the physical evidence actually place him outside the home during the critical window and show him actually discovering the scene and reacting with distress. So the theory remains completely unsubstantiated, public speculation that runs counter to the record. So these children were not abstractions, though. We need to remember that. Cora practiced being a doctor on her baby brother. Dawson shared his toys and celebrated dressing himself. And Callan rested his head on his father's shoulder in the mornings. And so their brief lives and the manner of their deaths form the factual core of everything that followed. And so accurate coverage must hold both the medical history of the mother and the concrete reality of the three young victims without collapsing one into the other. And so that's very important in cases like this. This is going to be a two-part series, and the second part is going to kind of help describe a little bit about what happened during the court proceedings. And from what I can tell, and I don't know if y'all watched it, but it's on court TV, and I've tried to watch most of them and will finish watching, but I've always loved court TV. I remember, years ago, I watched the O.J. Simpson trial. I watched the Phil Spector trial. So interesting. And one thing that I love to do is always to watch them during the testimony, watch the person on trial and just see what kind of reactions they had. I don't know if y'all remember back during the Phil Spector trials, he was weird. Like his hair was always different. He was always dressed a little bit crazy. He was a strange bird. I remember I loved watching it just to see how he was dressed every day, what his hair looked like. He was always not put together, like not put together at all. And I just thought, man, I thought it's strange that any girl would go to his house and be romantic with him. I don't know. Look, I just can't. I can't. But I loved watching the O.J. Simpson trial. Again, I just like seeing their reaction. I like being able to see their faces. Let's finish covering this next week. And I am excited about starting the YouTube channel. I know that this is not anything fancy yet, but I'm working on it. And I am super excited about the murder mystery. So I can say that my speaker is going to be somebody that you're going to love to hear. I want to grow this and make it bigger and better every year. And I really want to use my platform as an outreach for prevention. I hope that y'all will join me. I'll talk to y'all next week and stay safe and take care of yourselves. Bye, y'all.